Hey, so welcome to today's edition of Ask Karen. This is where I interview, they tend to be either coaches, consultants, therapists, healers, and in this case, an author. And they get to share a little bit about what they do, who they help if they're a coach, share a bit of their story. And then really the idea is that a lot of people when they're trying to grow their audience or sell more packages or whatever it is, and they're struggling to do it online, a lot of people tend to be having the same challenge. So the idea behind Ask Karen is that they get to ask a question. So today's guest is Mark. If you'd like to share with the audience a little bit about who you are, what you do.
Well, first of all, we got to love people like Karen who try to help us struggling, starving, needy.
Oh!
I'm on my knees begging people to buy my books. No,
I've got a halo. Look, can you see it?
having said all that, my name is Mark Bello. The website is markmbello.com, as we discussed off the air. And I write legal thrillers, primarily. I practiced law for over 40 years. And when I decided to retire, it became clear to me that I really wasn't somebody who was going to go out to the beach or to the lake, right off into the sunset and not do anything. So I decided a long time ago, what started this was I handled a case against the Catholic Church where a couple of children were abused by a priest. And this happened in the 70s, the 1970s. It was one of the first pieces of litigation against the church. Today, the church, as you know, is sued quite often for this kind of stuff. The scandal has become very public, but back then it was a dirty little secret, and very few people knew about it. So the church was covering it up. The church claimed that they had no knowledge of this priest's prior propensities. The priest got arrested and put in prison for 6 months, but that was it. They put him back into a parish and transferred him to another state. And the mother was not going to put up with that, and she hired us to get her kids justice.
Wow.
I didn't think it was going to take 40 years to write a book about it, but after I retired, I wrote Betrayal of Faith, my first novel. It's an embellished fictional account of what it felt like to take on a Goliath defendant with tremendous resources when I'm just a little sole practitioner. It cost a lot of money to pursue litigation like that. We traveled to 7 states looking for witnesses and taking depositions. And at the end of it all, we did a good job for our client. And I thought it would make an interesting book. It started out as a non-fiction account. And then I said, an embellished fictional account would be much more fun and much more interesting. So I wrote it as fiction.
Right.
Once I wrote that book, I thought I was a one-and-done author. I had fulfilled my bucket list. The name of the book was Betrayal of Faith. It's on my website and available on Amazon and other booksellers. But then the 2016 election came along in America, and I wondered whether or not a self-professed bigot might become president of the United States. And I decided to write a fictional account of an election where a businessman became president on a theory that he would deport all Muslims and build border walls on the northern and southern borders and make America pure again. I wrote the book in 4 months. I got attacked on social media for doing a hit job on Donald Trump. And my response was, if you see a similarity between the evil guy I wrote about and Donald Trump, that's on Trump, not on me. My guy came first. And once I wrote that book and I realized I could write novels about topics from the news, the books came a little easier for me. I wrote a book about white supremacy, another one about innocent black citizens being shot by cops, another one about a school shooting, a book about the Me Too movement and the Supreme Court based on the Kavanaugh hearings, a book on immigration, and telling it from two perspectives. One, people immigrating to the United States from South America, and the other, a Muslim citizen who returns to Syria and is captured by ISIS, and what the government will do to help a legal immigrant.
Wow.
So it's told from two different perspectives. And
so
then
you're taking current affairs,
correct,
and creating these fiction books.
Correct.
So there we go.
Except for my most recent book, which is called "You Have the Right to Remain Silent," and it's a whodunit. It does have a political slant. There's a conservative political talk show host who is accused of murdering and dismembering her liberal congressman husband.
Oh my
and
God.
and that's what the latest book is about. And then I wrote a series of children's books. The first one has been released. It's a social justice picture book about a biracial child who was bullied for being different than the other kids in the class. So as you can see, I'm kind of about social justice and safety and issues in the news that affect fundamental fairness to citizens. And I'm an advocate of kindness. I just wish we could get along better as different religions, different races, and different political platforms. I don't see why we can't talk to each other anymore.
Absolutely.
And solve problems.
It's just such an issue at the moment, isn't it? Everybody's
Yep.
against each other. So you really are the social justiceman, aren't you?
That's my mantra.
There we go, the social justiceman. So awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And if you want to, go and visit Mark's website. So as he said there, it's markmbello.com, and I'll put the link down below. So what is your call? Do you have a question for me, Mark?
I guess the question from the standpoint of being a self-published author, how does, in today's connected world, a self-published author compete with those authors in my genre, for instance, who are rather famous, and people will immediately buy a novel by this author, but perhaps ignore a better novel by that author? How do you solve that problem?
Okay, well, the way I see that is really, again, everybody buys from who they know, like, and trust. So as you said, somebody who has been a published author and has a reputation, has been on the news and whatever, and people know the name, that's because they've got a brand, right? So just like anybody, whether you're a coach, you could be, a coach, a speaker, when you're competing with anybody that has some kind of already established brand, it's going to be the same thing, which means that you've got to look at, when you're promoting on social media, you need to grow your audience of your ideal customer. So what type of person is buying the kind of books that you're writing? Where are they hanging out on social media? And then from then, well, go and visit them where they are. If they're posting in certain groups, go and provide value so that then they will come and check you out. Well, guess what? On your page, you explain who you are. They'll be like, oh, wow, this guy writes these whodunit kind of books too. And they're more likely to come and buy from you. So step one is setting the stage. So prepping your social media so that it's completely obvious if people are going to come and check you out. Number one, it's got to be public, right? Number two, you've got to have some kind of cover image, your background image that's going to say what you do, that you are an author, and what type of books that you write. So that if someone comes and checks you out, they know exactly who you are. Have some kind of link in the about section or in your bio section. There is enough space to put a link. So put your website so that they can come and click on that. So it is about growing your audience of your ideal customer, rather than just having your personal profile just for your friends and family. It doesn't matter what you're selling, whether you're an author, it doesn't matter. But go and find your ideal customer where they're hanging out. Go and provide value. Go and comment on some of the posts that they're putting out there, because you do that enough, they're going to come and check you out. And then maybe you can, you're going to, the kind of posts that you're going to be posting. Okay, maybe you're doing a giveaway, or maybe you're going to sell a bundle, maybe all your books for this price, so that people come and they're more likely to buy. Does that make sense? Does that help?
Yes, I've done a lot of what you're describing on LinkedIn, on Facebook. There are a lot of groups for authors and or legal experts. I also have my own podcast that I market myself, for lack of a better way to say it, as an expert in these various areas, especially the social justice aspect of it.
Awesome.
And with the children's books, you have a whole different genre and a whole different audience that I'm starting to cultivate.
Absolutely. So
the problem, Karen, is I'm an old man. If I was 30, this would be easier than it is when I'm 70.
No, it doesn't matter how old you are.
How they say market one reader at a time. If I market one reader at a time, I'm in real trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because but also you've got different types. So different types, there's going to be different types of people that are going to go for, obviously, the different types of books that you write. But ideally, it's going to be best to focus on one thing at a time so that you can grow that, then move on to something else. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you for the question. If anybody's interested in buying any of Mark's books, then click on the link, go to his website and have a read. So thank you for that, Mark. And I'll be back next week.
I've got a social justice issue for anybody's taste.